Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Pack Talk Live. I am Coach along with Lone Wolf, and we have some stuff to talk about here, Lone Wolf. Oh, what is that?
Got the music going.
It's weird because I don't have any music queued up here. So just hold on here. Gotta figure out what it is. There we go.
There we
All
go.
right.
All right.
Sorry about that, everybody. I have like a bunch of stuff using my hotspot right now, and so internet time connections being kind of an issue for about 2 more months until I get into the new house, and then we'll have high speed internet. So, um, want to start out? We're gonna quick run through the updates here on both the NBA and Major League Baseball because there has been some movement, at least for the NBA. And so I don't know if Lone Wolf, did you get a chance to read that article?
Yes, I did. Yeah. Yep.
So it's going to be a 22 team like tournament basically, and they're going to play. I believe it's eight. Like, is it 8 or 16?
Oh, let's see. So I'm just looking that up again to see what they said. Yeah, 22 team format here. Um,
And they were playing kind of like it's a seasonal game. It's going to count as season games, but it's almost kind of more like a warm up.
yeah, I think it says here it's 8 regular season seeding games, a possible
Yeah,
play-in tournament for the eighth seed, and then the playoffs at Walt Disney World, like you were talking about previously.
yeah. So what they're
Yep.
doing here is they're not taking an even number of teams out of each conference. They're
Right.
taking basically the top teams and then teams that are within a certain so many games close to that 8 seed, which we actually
Right.
brought that
Yep.
up. I think 2 weeks ago is they should
You're
do
right. We
something
did
like
do
that.
that. Exactly. Yep. Yep.
So I think this is going to be a good plan. They're talking
Yeah.
about getting a ton of games in per day, and then having a few hours in between each game to clean and sanitize everything.
Right.
Um, and they're basically said our end of our season could go all the way up into November. End of October.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously that would
That
have
seems
to
like an
push.
awfully long time to me. I don't know, but
It
you
is, but
know,
in here it does say, how it was, how it's always been is, if even if both series gets done,
yeah.
then and those two teams are going to play each other, they aren't starting that series until the scheduled start date. They're not doing that once the playoffs start. What they're doing is once the next round matchup is set, they're starting it. So it
Right.
gives a benefit to a team if you can win in 4 or 5 games to do that.
Yeah.
Because if the person you're playing has to play 7, it's not going to be you get 3 4 days rest. It's you get like a day rest. Boom, we're right back at it. So, um, it, it's nice to actually now start seeing things moving and evolving. They're going to start. I believe it starts after the 4th of July, so they're not going to start like
Right.
the everything until July. I think that's why they're saying October. Um, you know, people can say what they want about it. You can't just show up one day and start playing games. It's not
No, and
feasible.
they said that they were also going to have, constant testing, daily testing for all the players too.
Yep,
That's
and
one
you'll
thing
have
they
to.
mentioned. Yeah, you don't have a choice, right? Those guys are
Yeah.
going to be running into each other constantly on the basketball court. So
And to be honest, um, I think the testing of athletes is going to go all the way down to the high school level. I think the
yeah,
athletic trainer is basically, like we have a part-time athletic trainer. I think every school is going to have a nurse or an athletic trainer
right,
there at the beginning of every practice taking temperatures
right, yeah,
of
exactly.
everybody, coaches, players, anybody that's going to be around those teams. Um, and that, obviously that is until we come up with, a vaccination or get herd immunity or whatever it is. Um, but, it's just something we're going to have to deal with if we want sports back.
Yeah.
It's just, we're going to have to deal with that. Um, the other thing with this, and it makes it kind of interesting, is that they're talking now, since there's been this delay and this pushback because of the pandemic and all this stuff, that there's a possibility Kevin Durant will play for the Nets.
Oh, yes.
Now, I don't know if that's
That's
really a smart thing to do,
right.
but
It
if he
definitely
does,
changes some things. Yeah.
it definitely can change some things. I still don't think the Nets are good enough to win it all,
No.
but
But, you
it de-
throw a guy of that caliber, on their squad, it definitely balances the equation or changes things up. I mean, you give them a player who, I mean, the guy is good. Obviously, he's one of the best players in the league. So, but
Right. Yeah,
in the
and I
Eastern,
agree.
yeah, it's just yeah,
I think that takes them from, like, just making it into the playoffs and possibly
right,
losing in the first round to be winning a playoff series.
yeah,
Um, you know, there it really takes about a year and a half to really fully come back from an Achilles injury.
yeah,
Um, you know, so I guess we'll see with that. But I read that article too, and I was like, wow, that definitely would change the way you look at the playoffs.
right,
um and it's going to be really interesting because obviously it's going to be interesting how they set up the playoffs, because they don't say how they are going to set up the playoffs, if it's going to be like 8 teams on one side, 18, you know and eight
yeah.
teams
I
on the
was reading
other.
through this, and I mean, the things we know are there's 13 teams from the Western Conference and 9 from the Eastern Conference that would be involved. Um, they're talking about some other things in terms of how long the regular season will extend. But yeah, I
Yep.
don't know exactly what the format is in terms of that. There's a play-in tournament, um,
But it says that
and
playing
then
tournament for the eighth seed.
yeah, right, yep,
So it's
exactly.
like,
There's
okay,
8 and 9,
so
right, yep,
how are you going to do it? So
yeah,
obviously not all the details
are
are
out yet. Yeah,
being
we don't have everything yet. Yep,
reported yet, but I think this is a great step, because it's no longer, well, when's it going to happen? When's it happen?
right.
We have at least a structure of when to expect this stuff to be
Right.
going
Yep.
again.
This is July 31st, according to this, and it's going to be in Orlando, Florida. So now you've got something. Now I think you have a definite date, you have some definite structure, and you've got people that can anticipate. Hey, we are going to have basketball again. Fans of the NBA can look forward to it. You've got guys returning to practice soon. There's something to look forward to. There's an anticipation here now.
Right. So on the other side, you got Major League Baseball, who has still yet to be able to come to an agreement with their players. Um, and
Yeah.
we said it last week. I'm gonna say it again.
Right.
This is looking grimmer and grimmer, for us even having a baseball season. the latest article I read is that the owners will enact a 50-game season and give the players, basically take their salary, divide it by 162, times it by 50, and that's what they'll get.
Right.
But they have yet to go to the players' union with that. So it's like, if the players don't agree to that, what are you gonna do?
I know, and I'm reading some of these articles about it, and Major League Baseball rejected the players' offer for that 114 game regular season, and they made no counter proposal. So it's kind of like, well, we don't like what you have, so too bad. Well,
right.
You're not going anywhere, and I've seen some people, some of the pundits and what have you, that get paid for this stuff. They've said they didn't think that baseball could survive having a canceled season necessarily. Now, I don't. That may seem a little drastic, but I made some similar comments a couple of weeks ago on one of our shows about baseball being a vulnerable sport in this situation because of stuff like this, and now it's kind of playing out in front of our eyes with baseball.
Well, and that's the thing. It's one of those things, is that this happens to baseball, it seems like every 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And it's not like this is the first time in like 50 years that there might be a cancellation of a season. You've had work stoppages in recent memory for us.
Right, exactly.
I don't know who is worse, the Major League Baseball players or the owners, or if they're just both equally greedy.
Say, isn't it?
They're just both equally greedy, stubborn people. It's like, just come to an agreement and play a season.
And you know what? No one feels sorry for either side in this case. Really.
Exactly.
Nobody now. I mean, people have lost their jobs, lost their lives, lost their loved ones during the pandemic, and you guys are whining about, I'm not going to get paid another $3 million. Well, nobody feels sorry for you.
Exactly.
And owners are like, one less billion that I'm going to earn. Well, still, nobody feels sorry for you.
Exactly. So that is going to be interesting. I didn't see any update on the NHL, but I know they're working on something.
Right.
So that's kind of still up in there. I guess when they start actually playing, we'll probably know, or they'll be like, "Hey, there was an NHL game tonight," and we'll be like, "Oh, really? Nobody knew that they were playing again." Because they haven't said anything.
Yeah, they really have kept this under wraps in terms of what they've been doing.
So,
which, hey, you know what? Maybe that's a good thing, because then they'll figure it out, and then they'll actually come up with a coherent plan.
Well, here's the thing: if they come up with a plan and actually have a season, they're going to make out better than Major League Baseball if Major League Baseball cancels their season.
Sure, definitely.
So yeah, again, I said it last week. Major League Baseball is a train wreck. NBA has a skeleton of a structure. Obviously, you got NASCAR is running races. Golf is playing. You got sports in other parts of the world going on. So we're getting closer and closer.
We're getting there. Yep, it's
not necessarily
getting there
to normalcy, but just to have something, and especially now with everything going on with
And riots and pandemic.
I'm not even going to say the protests, because I'm fine with the protesting. The riots. This is the thing, and we talked about this last week. And
we did, yeah.
This is getting ridiculous. I totally agree with the protests. Go peacefully protest. No problem with that. I don't even care if you're out standing on the interstate shutting down traffic. Whatever.
Right.
Fine. I get it.
Yep.
And I'm okay with that. If the people that are driving have a problem with that, go around. There's other ways to get somewhere than just that one road. It's not like they're shutting down every road and you can't go around. It's the rioting, and people are saying, "Oh, it's the." I don't care what group is doing it. it's your, if it's happening in my community, I don't care if you're from my community or not from my community. If I see you breaking into a business, I'm doing
Yeah,
something to stop you. I don't care
right.
where you're from. So
It's a problem. Yeah,
you know,
regardless.
so um, so I have a big problem with that. Um, you know, and the last thing I'm gonna say that before we get to the final topic that kind of ties into that is
Hmm.
I just read an article a few hours ago that, and
Okay.
if they do this, it's gonna be like Escape from L.A. the movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The the Minneapolis City Council is actually considering disbanding the entire police department in Minneapolis.
Why? What good is what? That's
Be,
insanity.
because they're saying that they are beyond saving, beyond fixing. It's like,
Wow.
so what? You just gonna not have law enforcement?
I mean, so what you're saying is you can either just not have a police force, or you call in the National Guard to control the city while you what regrow a police force, and then you live under a military dictatorship
Right.
for however long it takes. I mean, this makes no sense. I mean,
Exactly.
if your police force was that bad, why are you only doing something about it now as
Now,
opposed to, oh
right.
wait, let's have somebody get murdered, and that was what it was. Let's just be clear.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then oh well maybe we should fix the problem now. This is wow, they should be thrown out of office.
Well, exactly.
What the heck?
Exactly. I was like, I read that,
That's
and
insanity.
I sent the article to a couple of my friends that live over there, and they said, "Oh, that's never going to happen." And I
Yeah,
said, "There's 2, 3 city council members that are for it. All they got to get is
right.
like 3, 4 more people, and the police department's gone."
Yeah, that's
You know,
nuts. It's bonkers.
and in
Yeah.
LA, the Garcetti in LA, has already said, I'm taking 150 million from the police department and starting this new department for low income neighborhoods. I'm like, so you're basically saying
You're
we
saying you
don't
have
want
no
law
faith in
enforcement.
your police. Yeah. Yep.
And I get it. There are bad cops
Mind
out there.
blowing. Sure, but there's a
They're,
lot of good ones too.
right. You can't have a lawless society without enforcement.
No,
You know,
not at all.
we can't. I'm telling you right now, we are not able to enforce laws ourselves.
No, no,
We
no.
can't. And I'll tell you right now,
No.
if it becomes a norm to get rid of law enforcement,
Yeah.
I will go buy multiple guns to have in my house
Yeah. Yeah.
because it'll be like
Yeah,
the
because things are
purge.
gonna get a little crazy, man. I don't know.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know. So, I it's getting interesting. It seems like the rioting and the looting is slowly going down, and it is becoming
Right.
more just peaceful protest now, which is good.
Which is good, right? Yeah, it should be. But
But
this
now,
impacts everything, right? I mean, this impacts any if you talk about, and obviously this is a societal issue, but it impacts the sports that we normally have and we talk about,
right?
because this is impacting the entire community. So that's probably the last thing on their mind during something like this, would be what are they going to do from a sports perspective? Because, they're talking about abolishing the entire police force.
Well, well,
I mean, the
here's the
whole thing is in chaos. So,
here's the thing. The parks
hmm
in Minneapolis and the University of Minnesota have canceled contracts with the Minneapolis Police Department for security services. So they don't have anybody do security services anymore,
well, they'll have to hire a private firm or something then, I guess. I
which is
mean,
going to be a lot more
well, I know,
because
right, exactly.
these private
Yeah.
firms are going to be like, we know you don't want to use the police department. Yeah, here's our bid.
Right. Yep.
They're just going to
Three
jack
times
the
what you were paying
prices up.
before. Good luck. Yeah. Yeah.
So it comes down to will the Minnesota Vikings use law enforcement for security at the NFL
For
games,
their
and
games,
stuff
right?
like this.
Well,
The Timberwolves, the
and here you go.
Twins,
Right, the T Wolves. We were just talking about basketball. What are they going to do in this situation? Right.
you know, um, But I'll tell you right now, if Minneapolis would get rid of their police force, you'll never
Yeah.
get. And Minneapolis has had a lot of big games and tournaments. They've had Final Fours, they've had Frozen
Yes,
Fours,
they
they've
have.
had
Yep.
the Super Bowl. You
Right.
get rid of your police department, you're not getting those anymore
No.
because no
So you're
organization.
impacting your city from a long-standing thing, and from a lot of different revenue options. There's so many things that you're crushing
Right.
or taking away from that community.
So that's going to be really really interesting moving forward
Wow.
to see what happens with that because it could impact professional sports in Minneapolis.
Yeah,
I'll
most
tell you right.
definitely.
I'll tell you right now. You do that too. Businesses will not go into Minneapolis. They'll all pull out.
Oh, why would you?
You,
You wouldn't feel
you have
safe.
yeah. You have no law enforcement to protect your business.
Yeah.
They will literally they will pull out.
Yeah.
So um
Yeah.
so that leads me into the last thing I want to cover before we get into our NBA power rankings, and that
Yes.
is the comments Drew Brees made um, about um, kneeling during the national anthem. And he made a comment that he felt it was disrespectful to the
Right.
the the United States of America and the flag, and he got a lot of blowback. He came out and apologized
Right.
today.
Right.
Now, should he have said it in the current climate? Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably it's probably just an ill-advised. Do I? You know, to me, you want to kneel during the national anthem, kneel.
Right.
I don't have a problem with that as long as you're being quiet and attentive during it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they're making a big scene when they're doing it.
No, you're just
So
kneeling. Yeah. I
I
mean,
have no problem
right.
with it. I get the symbolism. I get it. Um,
Right.
it's not like they're bending over and mooning the flag during the national anthem. Something like that.
Right.
Um, but if you feel that you shouldn't kneel, I have no problem if you feel that way either. I understand both sides. But by I guess the blowback that he's getting for it, I don't know if I agree with those people because it's like that's
Mm-hmm.
his opinion. He's not. From what I read, he has no problem with again the protesting and wanting change and things like that. He just feels that it's more respectful to stand at attention than kneeling.
Well, and
So
what he wrote about, I mean, what he said, and what's in the articles I saw was, he talked about what he feels when he stands before the flag and thinking about his grandfathers that fought in the military, and that was what he felt, and he thought it was more respectful to stand that way. But
right,
what he did also say is, you know, standing there and showing your respect it shows unity, and we can all do better. But he did say that he was sorry about maybe the way that some people took it. But he thought that this what he wrote wasn't to me very disrespectful. I mean, I think that a lot of players, including some of his teammates, had said they felt that his comments were part of the problem, which I don't really see it that way. I think their anger at his comments, which to me are fairly benign, um, it's misplaced because I look at it from the standpoint of here's a man expressing his opinion about what he feels while he looks at the flag. Okay, and um, it, there are people out there who are actually racist, who actually have a problem with what African American people are doing, and they say it's disrespectful because of the way they feel about African Americans. I don't think Drew Brees meant that in any way, shape, or form, and his comments certainly don't say that. So I don't think he's being disrespectful to them in any way, um, by saying this is what he feels, and he doesn't think that kneeling would do that for him. Well, that okay then, and he doesn't necessarily agree with it. The last time I checked, this is a free country, he has the right to disagree with kneeling because he doesn't think that it's proper from a
Right.
respect standpoint, not from a racial standpoint or because he doesn't understand the issues or something like that.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing. And that's one of my, I guess, issues. Not with the protesting and the need for change, because yes, obviously we need to change. We need to, know, um, find, and take care of, whether it's, you know law enforcement that's racist, or just any individual that's racist, and we have to get, try to get that out of our society. But I have a problem with is when, if I don't disagree with somebody and then that person turns around and says I'm X, Y, and Z because I don't align with what they think. And it's like, but I don't have to, because this is what the country is. Me and you, we don't agree on everything. You know, we don't agree
Mm-hmm.
on everything, but we're not like, oh my lord, you're horrible because you don't agree with me on that. It's We have to get to a point in society again where it's okay to disagree with somebody, but
Right,
but
right,
but still be cordial and polite with individuals, even though they disagree. We just don't have that anymore. I mean, that's probably my biggest gripe with society right now, is that there can be no disagreeing with uh, with certain people
right. With
and
certain
the way
things,
they
yeah.
think. And,
And
you
I'm
know,
reading some of the comments that some of the other players had made, saying that Drew Brees is beyond lost. He doesn't understand why the people were kneeling, and it wasn't about the military, and it wasn't about fighting. It's about brutality and equality and things of other. Well, okay, but he's telling you right now he feels it's disrespectful because of the fact that he sees it as every time he sees that flag he thinks of his grandfather's fighting. So that's why he's saying that he feels it's disrespectful. He never
right,
interjected race or anything else into the equation. So you're saying, well, this is what it's about for me. He's saying this is what it's about for me, and now you're telling him that you don't agree with him. You're disrespecting his beliefs just as much as you may
right,
think he's doing the same to you. And
right.
how is that okay? It's not.
Exactly. And that's where,
There's a
as
disconnect there, man. I mean,
as a society, we need to repair that
yeah,
disconnect with
right.
each other, um, because it's just not that issue there. I mean, it's
Yeah,
across the board. I mean, there, I when I'm around people and they get into certain discussions and it's just kind of a back and forth, I walk away.
yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't want to even be, I don't, I'm not even going to give my opinion, because I'm like right in the middle of you two, and now I'm going to play mediator. I'm not
Right,
doing it.
yeah. You don't need that. Yeah,
So, so again, we have a lot of things I think as a society we need to work on.
right,
Um, you know, and I think, first we got to get the rioting and looting under control. Um, and hopefully, again, we don't want to forget the stuff that has happened, but as we move beyond all of it, and we kind of just step back and think through things and not have a knee jerk reaction on, policies and things like that, hopefully we can actually come up with solutions that are sensible.
right.
Because
Yep.
shutting down your entire law enforcement agency, it's not like it's a town of 100 people. Okay, well, you get rid of your police department there. It's probably one officer. It's 100 people. Okay. you probably have county law enforcement that can take care of that. You can't do that in a city like Minneapolis. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
I would never go into that city again if they don't have law enforcement. I
Oh,
just won't.
no way. I
There's
mean,
just no,
yeah, you
there's
don't
no
know what
way.
would happen there. Yeah.
So, um, so that's all we're gonna hit on with that. We probably
Right.
were talking about that a little bit longer than we planned,
We anticipated, right? And that's okay, but
but it does directly. It is impacting the sports world. So, and
yes.
this is a sports show, so
Right.
we hit
But
on it.
we'll talk about some more pleasant topics now.
Yes,
In particular, power rankings for the NBA.
yes. So 2 weeks ago, we did power rankings for the NFL, and now we are going to do them for the NBA. And I'm telling you right now, I'm just looking at standings, and I'm already telling you, it's like, yeah, I would not put that team down there. Um, but we'll start
Right. Right.
with the very, very last rank. So the worst team that we feel what the worst team in the NBA is right now. Um, I'll just read off the bottom three records.
Yep.
I'm not saying that that's the order that they should be in. The worst record in the league right now is the Golden State Warriors. Then you have the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Right.
Um, I do not think Golden State is the worst team in the league. They were decimated by injuries. If you don't have Green and Curry go down, they're probably in the playoff hunt. I'm not saying I'd
Right.
put them all the way up to the middle of the pack, but they're not the worst team. I think Cleveland by far is the worst team. Then Minnesota,
Yeah.
and I'd put the Warriors, up 2 spots from the the standings.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, just as far as we're talking about this year right now, I would
right,
agree because the Warriors are one of those teams that, falling this far from where they were and how good they were, they would bounce back. They are not a bottom dweller, and nor will they be next year. It just won't happen. So their season is done for now in this new format, or it will be.
hmm
But yeah, next year they will be. I mean, what I've seen, they've projected out to be a top 10 team again next year. So I don't foresee them being this bad, and they're not in that position. But yeah, the Cavs
yeah,
are how the
and
mighty have fallen. The Cavs are awful.
yeah,
No
yeah,
LeBron, you're awful.
the Cleveland Cavaliers are just they're bad.
Yeah,
They like you said, you don't have LeBron James. You're not very good, and we knew that was going to happen.
right.
Um,
And
you
they
know,
really just have. I mean, the management has been awful. It's not just the talent; it's just the management of the entire squad has been horrible. So Cleveland, you have to expect your future here is going to be pretty bleak. Sorry to say.
right. So we're putting Cleveland at the bottom slot. I mean, and I think the Timberwolves are in the same, you know, boat as the Cavaliers.
Yeah,
They always seem to have a nice young nucleus of talent, and they have a couple okay years with that talent, and then they get
right,
impatient and they trade them.
right.
Um, it's just like,
Well, and they have
what?
Carl Anthony Towns, and it's like, what will happen with him? Is he still going to be there? What's gonna happen there? And but that outside of that, like you said, the young talent, where do they go from there?
Right. So
Or what do they
I'd
have?
go,
Yeah.
yeah, put the Cavaliers at the bottom, Minnesota
Yep.
just above them. The debate is how far up do we move the Warriors? Obviously we
Sure.
still have to go based off of this season. We know,
Right.
next year they're not going to be that low. They're probably going to be a playoff team next year. But
Yeah,
for
I
right
would say
now,
so.
would we say as of right now that they would be better than the Hawks, Pistons, Knicks, Bulls, Hornets. Those are all the other teams that are technically eliminated
Right.
from playoff contention. Where would we slot the Warriors here?
Yeah, I mean, I would say they're probably better than almost all of those teams. Oof, it's hard because I want to give them more of the benefit of the doubt because of how good they can be, but they're really not that good this year. I guess I would say maybe we can put them up to say like, 23 maybe. We can slot them up maybe even that high. But they have to be penalized for their season. So
Right. So if you look at it, where'd my screen go? If we look at it, because from what I remember is we had Curry was just about to come back again. Yeah. And he'd probably play out the rest of the season. So yeah, they could definitely probably.
They could move up a few spots, I think, easily if they had the chance to play out some more games. But yeah, I guess that's what I would give them some spots move up. They're better than the Pistons and they're better than the Hornets. I mean, I don't think there's a question to me about that. So Cavs at last, and followed by the Timberwolves. Warriors move up, and so then where do we go from there? What are the next three teams?
All right, I'm just waiting for everything to load for me again. My internet connection is brutal here. Well, again, if we're saying we're going to move the Warriors up farther,
yeah.
Working. Oh, the computer is not liking me today, folks.
Well, I got the standings right here. So I mean, yeah, they're 15 and 50. Their record's terrible, but I think we move them up.
Well, again, I'm typing this stuff all up for us. So we have Cleveland, and then we're gonna go Minnesota.
Yep.
So who's next? So who would be above them? Are we gonna slot Golden State in there? Or
we've got Phoenix and Detroit and the Knicks, the Bulls, the Hornets.
Well, if you go to league standings, you'd have after the Warriors, Cavaliers, Timberwolves, you have the Hawks, Pistons, Knicks are the next three.
Sure, Hawks, Pistons, yep, Knicks and Bulls.
So if we played out the season, if we would have played out the season,
sure.
Do we think the Warriors could have one more game,
bypassed?
And if you put them head to head, would it beat the Hawks, Pistons, or Knicks in a series?
Yeah, I think
this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, even this year. Yep.
So I'm not even going to put the Warriors on there yet. So who then would we say would
is
be
the third
next?
worst team?
The third worst team in the league. The Hawks, Pistons, Knicks, Bulls, Hornets,
I mean,
Wizards.
I honestly, I know they're all kind of within a little bit of each other, but I would say the Pistons. They have not been good for a while, and I don't know from a core standpoint of the players that they have, even where they would go at this point. I don't even know what they've got. I think is Blake Griffin still playing for them?
Yeah,
I think he does,
Blake Griffin is still there, but he's no longer in his prime. He's had some injuries.
No,
he's
right.
He's not what he was when he first came into the league.
Right.
But yeah,
I really don't know what else they've got. So I mean, I would put them as the third worst team.
Okay, so so we have Cleveland, Minnesota, Detroit.
Yep.
I would say the Knicks have to be next. I mean,
I agree.
They're just a train wreck.
It took the words out of my mouth.
Again, this is one of those things where if they were good, it'd be great for the league
Hmm.
because a major market team be like New York having good sports teams is great for the area. It's great for the league that they're in. But Nolan is it's just like the NFL owners. Get out of the way. Just write the
Yeah.
checks. Just write the
Yep.
checks. You
Yep.
know,
What are you doing, bro? Yep.
just write the checks and be done with it.
Yeah.
But these owners, they buy these clubs and then they think, I
I've
know
got the
this
skill.
sport.
I've got the acumen. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just going to, I can do this. No, you can't
Right.
because you're not that good. You don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Just because you
Yep.
watch
Exactly.
basketball doesn't mean you know which players to sign and how they're going to fit into your roster and your organization. So fourth worst team, New
The
York,
Knicks.
and
Yep.
I mean, if you want to, if somebody came to you, oh no, they're the worst team just because of their owner, I wouldn't argue that that point either. But
Yeah.
but
We got to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. I mean, that. Sorry. I mean, you could try to make a case for them, but Cleveland is just that bad, people.
yeah,
Sorry.
Cleveland is that bad.
Yeah.
All
All
right, so the
right. So
fifth
then
worst team,
that's you got the
we do it
Hawks.
with the Hawks.
Yep.
So would the Warriors beat the Hawks head to head?
I think so. I think probably. Yeah.
Okay.
I think
So
we take the Hawks.
the Hawks would be fifth.
Yep.
I don't know too much about the Hawks. I know a couple years ago they had that really nice run, and then they dismantled the entire team after 1 year.
Right.
It's like it's kind of like what the small market baseball teams used to do. Spend all
Mm-hmm.
this money for one season, have a good season, then just get rid of everybody. you know,
Right,
um,
exactly. Yeah, and
that
then it would be like, hey, we're great. We won a World Series, or we get to the World Series, and then they're done. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, they have Trey Young, and so I think they have somebody to build around. So that's why they can't be in the bottom echelon, but at the same time, they don't have all-encompassing talent or that second, third, fourth guy. They kind of have a little bit to build around. So
right.
yeah,
So next, so now again, we every team we got to look at the Warriors, so we still have them.
right.
They're technically
Yep,
the
we do.
worst
Yep,
record in the league,
right.
but
We're giving
now
them the benefit of the
we
doubt here.
we are saying
I
that they're better than five teams so far.
right.
So now it
I,
comes between them and the Bulls
right.
or the Hornets.
I think maybe it'd be legitimate based on their record and where they are right now to say the Warriors should probably slot in here. I mean, I know I had them a little higher, but we can only give them the benefit of the doubt for so long.
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
because if we keep going off of what they've done, we're gonna have
right.
them all of a sudden in like the top 10.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's not fair. And that's not
and
fair
they're
at all.
and they're
Yeah,
not a top 10 team. When you look at that roster, they are retooling it. You still got Steph Curry, you still got Draymond Green,
right,
but other
right.
than
You've
that,
got guys. You've
you
got
know,
talent. Yeah.
yeah, you still have what's his name? Can't think of his name. The shooting guard. I can't think of his name. But Thompson, Clay
Oh,
Thompson.
Klay Thompson. Yeah. Yep.
So you got a core three, but Thompson was out because he tore his
Yep.
ACL in the finals. Steph Curry got injured right away. Draymond Green got injured. So
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
it
Yeah.
really showed their lack of depth
Right.
um,
Exactly. Yep.
this year. And unfortunately, for them, you know, when you have three superstars, basically, you're not going to have depth because you can't afford to pay
Mm-hmm.
for quality depth. You have to take guys
Right.
kind of off the street to um, to fill in your roster. So it kind of
Right.
bit them this year. So we're up to the seventh worst team in the league,
Right.
and the next three teams here would be the Bulls, Hornets, Wizards. Um,
Right.
if we add a couple more, then we had the Suns and the Spurs. Um, you know, I'd like to say the Bulls are headed in the right direction. I don't think they are.
No.
They're kind of been stuck in neutral, and just
Yeah.
they have not been
Well,
the
and
same since the Jordan era. You know,
yeah, I mean, I'll give the Bulls what they had even after that when they brought in Tom Thibodeau, and for a while there they had something going. And then they said, well, this message that of Thibodeau's, it's not working anymore. We got to get rid of him. Well, now you're bad. So, good on you for getting rid of him. But that didn't really work out for you. So, I mean, I'm not necessarily opposed to saying that those three teams are literally the next three worst teams that we have. I don't know, to me, if the Suns or San Antonio are any worse or better than them. Some may argue that even the Kings, even though they have 28 wins, are maybe not that good. But I don't know. I would say the Bulls, the Hornets, and the Wizards are our next three. I'm good with that, unless you aren't.
so right in that order: Bulls, Hornets,
Yeah.
Wizards.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, yeah, I'm fine with that. Again, um, really haven't followed, and that's the thing with the NBA.
Yeah.
You if the team's bad, people really don't follow them.
Right.
Unless you are a
Right.
loyal fan to that club, you don't follow them. Um, so I don't know a ton about them, those three teams. Um, and really, I don't know too much about the Western Conference until you get into the playoff type teams.
Yeah.
So, um, the East, top of the East, yeah, I'm pretty familiar with.
Right.
But
Obviously.
um,
Yep.
again, it's just not one of those things that I paid attention to, and we haven't had anything really with the NBA to talk about,
Right.
because it's not like the NFL where we had the draft, we had free agency, this and that, where you can still talk about it and stay up to date. The NBA has just been gone.
Right.
So,
Yes. Completely
um,
gone. Yep. Yep.
all right, so we're up to the number 10, and so
Mm-hmm.
now we're getting into those teams that um, are probably gonna be down in Orlando. Um, so we'll go with the next four teams: the Suns, the Spurs, the Kings, and the Pelicans. Um, they're all within 2 games of each other. If you have the Trailblazers in there, it's 3. Um, I'm not sure. I know the Suns are sitting there at 26-39. They're a young team. They got some nice players there. Um,
Right.
the Spurs, I think Popovich is kind of running his course. I'm not,
Yeah.
I think they're keeping him there because of what he did.
Yeah.
Um, but since Duncan left, what has he done? Yeah, they've been in the
Yeah, and even more
playoffs.
recently with Kawhi Leonard leaving too. Yeah, honestly, I think I'd probably say, if I were to say who I thought was in this spot, I'd say San Antonio. I mean, they're to
And
me
I
they're
agree.
not only on they're just on the decline.
Right.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. Um,
Yeah.
So the next slot, then I like Phoenix better than Sacramento. I think Sacramento's kind of playing above their roster right now. They're
Hmm.
kind of overachieving. Um, and I kind of almost would take the Suns in the head to head with the Kings.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not
I'm
I'm
with
not
you there. I like the youngness of the roster and what Aiton could develop into. I like the Suns more, and I think it's only a couple games we're talking about here, so
right.
easily I think the Suns could overtake the Kings, and I agree with that. We'll put the Kings next and the Suns over them.
All right. So now we would have the Pelicans and the Suns and the Blazers to decide upon here at the
Hmm.
12th worst team. Um, you know, I really like the Pelicans. The only
Hmm.
problem here is can they keep their young guys past their rookie contract? Will they resign? Um,
Right.
that's the issue, and I just don't know if they have the lure to keep those stars in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because
because
they have like the faces of not all of them, but they got Zion and Lonzo Ball. I mean, they've got
yeah,
guys who are like headliners that, yeah, it's got a lot of jazz. If they keep them there, yeah, I like it too. I like them
yeah.
too. Yeah,
So I'm kind of thinking, um, the Blazers are good, but I think
right.
they're underperforming this year.
Yeah, I think so
Um,
too. Yeah.
and I'm not sure really what's up with them. I'm not
Hmm.
sure if it's a talent thing or what's going on there. I'm not sure if I put Suns over them, even though I like the Suns roster.
Right.
Portland's been a playoff
I would
team with the guys
say,
that most.
yeah. I mean, to me, I guess we can go with Suns, then Trailblazers, then Pelicans.
Well, would you take the Pelicans over the Magic?
Well, that's a good question. Pelicans over the Magic. Oof. Um, I think I
Because you got to
would.
remember too, the
Yeah.
Pelicans are 28 and 36 in the Western Conference, which is a much
Right.
more competitive conference than the East.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. These Eastern Conference teams, even though they might have better records,
Right.
the East is not as good as the Western Conference. I'm sorry.
From a depth standpoint. From a
Right,
depth standpoint. Yeah.
right.
Yep. Yeah. You've got
You,
some teams at the top that are really good, but yeah, from a depth standpoint, they are not. I
right.
think I would. I think I would take the Pelicans, and I put them over the Magic too. I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so put the Magic next,
Yep.
and then the Pelicans, because
Yep.
the next team is the Nets,
Right.
and that is one of those things where we have to now talk about the Nets with Kevin Durant because we don't know if he is actually going to play, but he's in the conversation. So when you add him into
Mm-hmm.
that, I would take the Nets over the Grizzlies. I'd take the Nets over the Mavericks. I might even take the Nets right now over the Sixers and the Pacers.
Wow.
Kevin Durant Kevin Durant is that much of a difference because the 76ers have
Yeah.
a great roster, but they just don't
They
play
do.
together. They just have
No.
so much infighting in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I and the Pacers I think are just again they're one of those teams. There's a quality team. They benefit from being in the East and they're playing really
Yeah.
well right now. At the toward
Right.
one the season got suspended. Um, but I'll tell you right now, I know the Nets are sitting there at
Yeah. I mean,
30
they're
and
30 and
34,
34. Right. Yep.
but you add Kevin Durant in there, again, we're not going off of record. We're going off who we think is a better team. And yeah, if you don't have
Right.
Kevin Durant, yeah, I think the Nets are kind of right where they should be. But if he
Yeah.
plays, and he would technically be eligible to play, um, he was doing basketball drills before the season was suspended,
Yeah.
and now you have 2 more months.
Yeah, I mean, I look
Technically
at some of
three,
these
because
teams and I say, do they have somebody or something that can wow me? Like the Pacers don't wow me. Yeah, they won 39
right.
games. I agree. Like you said, they play in the Eastern Conference. Yeah, they're quality team, but they don't wow me. The Grizzlies, they've got Ja Morant, but they're not quite there yet. They're all right, but they're just not there yet. And the 76ers, yeah.
I mean,
I
they
mean,
got talent.
that's the thing. They've got the talent. They've got Embiid. They've got Simmons. They've got the
Yeah.
talent. But can this actually happen? Are they going to be able to get along, um, and put it together? If they could be even better than where they are right now. But if they don't, then they're going to be good but never great. So yeah, Kevin Durant could make the difference. The guy is a superstar. He could easily turn this team around. I don't know. I mean, let me look at those standings again here and see if I agree with you or not. I don't know. I mean, I
I
would
mean,
put them ahead of the 76ers. I agree. If you got Kevin Durant, I would put them ahead of the Grizzlies. I agree with that too. Um,
are they? But would they be better
Better
than the
than the Pacers.
Mavericks?
I don't know. The Mavericks are no slouch. I mean, they won 40 games so far.
I understand that.
Yeah. Um, and they have guys that are good and that can wow you. I mean, Luka Doncic, you know, I don't know. I wouldn't put them ahead of the Mavs. I don't know if I could. Just from the standpoint of as a team, the Mavericks I think are better than the Nets as a team. Though I know you're adding
But
Kevin Durant.
would you put the Mavericks above the Pacers and the 76ers and put them on
Oh
the
yeah, I
same
would.
level as the Rockets and the Thunder?
Oh yeah, I would say the Mavericks are better than those other teams, the
So
76ers and the
so if you move
Pacers.
if we move the Mavericks up,
Yeah.
then we got
So we
then we
got
still
like
have
I think
the Grizzlies, the Sixers, and the Pacers. And with the Nets with Durant, would we would they be better than those three teams?
well, right. So yes, so I would say we'd have Memphis, Philadelphia, Indianapolis, and then we'd have the Nets and then the Mavs.
Now,
I think I
I
did
would
that
say
right.
this, even though with their, I guess, personality conflicts, I would
Yeah.
take I think the Sixers are better than the Pacers.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Yep, I'm there
Um,
too. Yep.
it's flip flopping one spot, but
It's fair though. I mean, this is about who's better, and yeah, they've got talent, more talent than Indiana, than the Pacers do. Yep.
so we're going Grizzlies, Pacers, Sixers, Nets. So that's probably one of the biggest shocks right there.
I would
Um,
say so, yeah. But I mean, this is Kevin Durant we're talking about. If the
but I mean,
guy plays,
if Durant doesn't play, then we look
yeah.
like fools. But
Right, yeah.
I'm going off the assumption that he's going to come back and play.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
I'm there
um,
with you. I'll buy into it. And a guy like him, he wants to play. So yeah, I'll
right.
go. I'll buy into that.
So now we got the Mavericks, the
Yes.
Rockets, Thunder, Heat, and Jazz. Those would be the next clump of teams. Because after that, we are getting into the nitty
The
gritty,
meat.
the
Yes,
the
the
meat,
good teams. Yeah.
top
Yep.
the top echelon teams in the league. Um,
Right.
like the debate is, we like the Mavericks. Are they better than the
Yeah.
Rockets? Or are they better than the Thunder?
Right.
I don't know if they can beat the Rockets in a series.
Right. Right.
Thunder maybe. Um, Heat probably. Again, the Heat are
Yeah.
41-24, but again, it's the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
I have to knock Eastern Conference teams because you play some really bad teams. I mean, you just do. You
Yeah, you
got
do. Yeah.
Cleveland, Detroit, New York, Atlanta, Chicago, Charlotte, Washington.
There's a lot of bad teams.
Those are
Right.
all Eastern. So in our
I
bottom
know.
nine, you have the Wizards, the Hornets, Bulls, Hawks, Knicks, Pistons, and Cavaliers. 7 of the bottom 9 are Eastern Conference teams. That's
Yeah.
why I have to put a knock in Eastern Conference teams.
Right.
Because you play really bad teams. There's some bad teams you play. So if you're average, you look like you're an above average team because of who you play.
I mean, I think Miami's a decent team, and they're probably building and doing well, and obviously they've got Pat Riley there. They have the ability to be good at all times, but yeah, they're in the Eastern Conference. So at 41 games, are
I
they
mean, but
better than a team that
but
wins
here's the thing:
40 games in the Western Conference? No, I don't think they are. I agree with you.
when the Heat play the Bucks beat them by 15 to 20 points.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
that's the way it is. Um,
Right.
so I would put both the Thunder and the Rockets above the Heat. The question would
What
be,
about the Mavs? Would you put the Mavs ahead
right?
of the Heat?
It's a game. In the win column, it's one game.
Right.
I think so. You have 40
Oof.
wins in the Western Conference.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they have 3 more losses, but yeah, I would agree. I think I'd have to agree. I don't, and this is, maybe this is disrespectful to the Eastern Conference, but at the same time, that's just the reality of what it is. The West from top to
It's
bottom is better
reality.
than the East. That's reality.
So,
So yeah, I agree. I think let's
so
put Miami there.
So now we have to decide: are the Mavericks? Would we take the Mavericks or the Thunder or the Rockets?
Well, I wouldn't take them over the Rockets. I might take them over the Thunder. I just, this is not the Thunder of what used to be. There's no more
Right.
James Harden. There's no more Kevin Durant. There's no more Russell Westbrook. I mean, well, actually, he might still be there now that I think about
Yeah.
it. No, wait, he left
Westbrook.
though.
Did he?
Oh, I thought he did. Or maybe he's the only guy there. Now I'm getting confused.
Yeah. Let's see if I can
I
pull
thought that
up.
whole thing fell apart.
See if my internet is gonna work here. Um,
I'll get it. I'll get it.
the roster.
Oh yeah,
No,
he's
they
in
do.
he's in Houston. Yeah, he's in
Yeah.
Houston.
So
Okay, I thought he left. Yeah, 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 yeah,
holy
yeah. Okay.
smokes. Yeah, I know. They have Chris Paul. Chris Paul's their big,
Oh, right.
their
Okay.
their
Yeah.
their
Yep.
superstar.
So, but
Um,
he's not, to me. He was never a guy that would carry a squad. I mean, he's a good or great ancillary player to another superstar, in my opinion. And you don't even have a lot of the other pieces. Now, obviously, they're good. We're not knocking them for they're not trash or anything. We're just comparing them to the other teams that are there. To me, Houston, they have a couple of stars. They've got more firepower. I would take them over the Thunder, and I think I would take Dallas too.
yeah, and I agree with that. I would take Dallas over the Thunder. Paul is not in his prime. He's on I think the down end of his
No.
career. So I think the Thunder are just playing as a team, but when you get into a playoff series, I like the Mavericks. They have more firepower, more guys that could carry a team through a series than the Thunder. So then after
And
Thunder,
look, I
then
mean, we're splitting hairs a little bit
yeah,
here too, because
but
these
but we're
teams are all
getting to the
40, 41 wins. But still, this is
but
where we
but
are.
we're getting to the top of the league. We got that's what you got to
Yep.
do.
Right.
So next we said that we would not put the Mavericks over the Rockets, but would we put the Rockets over the Jazz?
I think we would. Utah to me is a steady Eddie. They've been good, and even after the Jerry Sloan, who we talked about earlier, in an earlier show, the era, they've recovered nicely and they've maintained their franchise and they've been good pretty consistently. Um, but they're just one of those teams to me that good franchise, nice and steady. They play well as a team. But in a playoff series, I think you need guys who can clinch those playoff series for you and win. And I know that some people are going to say Houston has run into problems in doing that in the Western Conference. But they've fallen short against the Warriors when the Warriors were at full strength in
Right.
the finals. So I would take Houston over the Jazz when it comes to finishing out the season or in a playoff series.
Would you take the Mavericks over the Jazz?
I don't think so. I like the Mavericks, and we talked about Luka and everything, but I think the Jazz are just slightly better as a team than the Mavericks are.
All right, so we got Thunder, then the Mavs, then the Jazz. So
Yep.
now it comes down to we have the Rockets.
Yep.
Would you take the Rockets over the Nuggets or the Celtics?
Whew. I don't think. Well, I don't think I would take them over the Celtics. I really like the roster that Boston has.
Yeah, the Boston's pretty deep too.
Yeah, they've got a lot of talent, and they have some superstar firepower of their own. And they're this is where we get into the good teams, the really good teams in the Eastern
Yep.
Conference. I would not take them over Boston.
Okay. Would you take them over the Nuggets?
I don't know. What do you think? I mean, what's your thought on the Nuggets there?
I like the Nuggets. I think you add Westbrook to Houston. This is his first year, I believe, in Houston, and they're kind of still finding that roster.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'd probably say no. I think Denver plays more as a team than Houston. And the thing that I always notice with the Rockets is that once you get into the playoffs, it seems like Harden just wants to take over and just give me the ball. And a couple of years ago, he could do that. He averaged like a triple double, for I don't know how many games.
Yeah.
But you can't do that consistently and win an NBA championship that way. Denver's young; they play as a team, so
yep.
I don't think so. I think the next team here is the Rockets.
Okay.
And then I think the Nuggets after them, and then we can debate
the
Then we can debate
and then we'll debate. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So we're gonna go. Rockets.
I agree. I mean, Denver's got some nice young pieces. They have Jocic. I'm not sure if I pronounced that name correctly, but yeah. So I mean, yeah, I agree. I just there's something about Houston when they hit the playoffs. They've got a load of talent, but yeah. Again, we're kind of getting to the nitty gritty on some of these. So
All right, so we have the top five teams that we
Yep,
feel
the
are the top
Clippers, the
five
Lakers,
teams.
the Celtics, the Raptors, and the Bucks.
So number five, so we have, out of that group, when
Mm-hmm.
you look at this, um, you know, yeah, I know, in my opinion, I know the Raptors at 46 wins.
Right.
I like
They're
Boston
number
better than
five.
them. I think that out of that group, they're the fifth best team in the league.
I
I
agree.
don't I don't think they can beat any of those teams in front of them in a 7 game series this year.
Right.
I think last year, but you know, yes, they won. They beat the Bucks, but part of it was too. I think the Bucks got a little tight at the end of that series. Couldn't
Right.
close it out. And then they played phenomenal in the finals, and Golden State had some issues. So I think everything kind of fell their way last year. I don't see it happening this year. I think, in my opinion, the top three teams in this league are head and shoulders above everybody else. In
Oh
my
yeah.
opinion, and we'll
And,
get to
and
that
and
very
let's
shortly.
not forget last year that Kawhi Leonard was a member of Toronto and now is a
Right,
member of the Clippers. Okay, so you can't
right,
lose a guy that averages, 27 points a game and take him away and say, okay, now you know, we're
right.
still just as good. You're not. You're not.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
number four. So we have the Celtics, Clippers, Lakers, and Bucks left. Um, I would
I mean,
have. My opinion is it would be the Celtics.
yes, I agree with you. Yep.
I don't. Again, you look at the teams that would be in front of them. I think they can give them a good series. I don't think that right now they can beat any of those teams.
No.
I just
Nope.
I
They're
don't
they're
see it.
quality. They're a very quality team. I like Boston. I appreciate where they are. Um, but I don't think that they can beat those three teams.
All right. So now we got down to the last three, the final
Yeah.
three, the Bucks,
Yeah.
Lakers, Clippers. Um, I mean,
It's interesting with these three teams
it
because,
it
what do
is
you
interesting.
feel? I mean, you've got some real good superstar power across the board with these three squads.
We'll get here. Let's get our rankings done, and then we'll
Yeah.
debate because I think it's pretty cut and dry. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but let's just rank it, and then
All right. All right.
we'll
All right. All
sum
right.
up.
That's fine. Yep.
We'll
Yep.
kind of give a little bit of playoff talk here. Um,
Okay.
because we're at an hour and 15 minutes. We go and a half on our show, so we got some time.
Sure.
We can do a little
Sure.
playoffs, kind of
Yep.
a playoff talk um, with
Okay.
with us a little bit here. So, out of those three, who do you feel is number three?
Well, not just going off of record, but I think the Clippers are the third team, and I think that's because this is a team that has been to me more recently assembled with a lot of the roster that they have. Um, it's got some playoff experience on the team. It's good. I like the coach. I like what they're doing. But I just feel like the other two teams are just slightly better than those two teams, and I know that some people would put the Bucks at number three, but my contention for the Bucks this year is that they got their teeth kicked in a little bit last year. They had the playoff experience. This is a team that's been building for this moment, and I think that to me those other two teams are better than the Clippers.
Right, and I agree with that. People can say the Bucks are number three, but big thing that I look at, we sat there and we said we've downgraded the Eastern Conference teams. But here's the
Right.
difference: the Bucks compared to the rest of the Eastern Conference team. Their
Right.
their win differential is plus 11.2. The Clippers
Yeah.
6.5, Lakers
Right.
7.4.
Right.
I mean, they're not just winning by 1 or 2 points. They're
Yeah.
crushing teams. Now, before the
Right.
league was suspended, they had a 3-game losing streak. We'll
Right.
get into why, and I'm just going to say it. I feel that the Lakers are number 2, Bucks are number 1.
Right. And I'm there with you too. Yep.
Okay, so
And
with
people can say
that,
whatever they want. They got
right?
the Lakers of LeBron James, whatever. Yeah, I know. We know. We
So,
know, people. We know.
and here's the thing. So now that and really, when we go through the rankings because you got to rank a whole league. You can't just
You do.
rank
Yeah. Yep.
the top tier.
Right.
When we look at this new playoff format, I think it's pretty cut and dry that you're going to have either, again, it really depends too on how this thing is laid out. If it's laid
Yeah.
out kind of like the NCAA tournament is,
Mm-hmm.
it could be totally different. But
Sure.
I think you're going to either see Bucks Lakers or Bucks Clippers
Yeah.
in the championship series, and this is
Right.
why. And I really think it's going to be Bucks Lakers because of this. Both those teams have now had 2 months to get their superstars rested. And remember how the Bucks came out of the gate at the beginning of the season, and they were obliterating teams.
Yeah.
You have 8 games.
Yeah.
You don't think the Bucks are going to come out and just say, "Hey, let's go, boom," and they're just going to throttle teams? Giannis everybody's going to be fresh. Yeah. And that's the thing with the Lakers too. LeBron's going to be fresh. If this was the regular season and we didn't have this break, I'd give the edge to the Clippers because LeBron's older.
He is, and he's had put a lot of minutes on his body from the time he started in the league from 18 until now. So
right, and I'm a Lakers fan. They are my team, but I'd love to see the Bucks win a title.
Yeah, so would I. Yeah. And but this team, it's been building to this over the last several years. I mean, that's,
right.
And they had it within their grasp last year. They've been there. They're hungry to get there again. This is a team that's just good all the way around. There's
and that's the thing.
There's teams in the Eastern Conference that are just good. Boston, I would put them in the category of being a really, really good team, no matter who they stack up against. But the Bucks, hands down, I mean, they can stack up with anybody in the league.
I mean, you look at I have the league standings. That's what I went off of. You go break down conference.
Sure.
They have a 6. When everything was paused, they were on a 3-game losing streak, and still had a 6.5 game lead over the Raptors for the number 1 seeded spot.
Yeah.
That's why you can't. That's why I don't use the argument of, it's the Eastern Conference, because they were dominating. They just weren't winning games and up by a game or 2 games. They were dominating. And during that streak, remember, Giannis was out. He was starting to have knee soreness.
Yeah. Yep, he was. Yeah.
He's going to have basically 3 months to get that knee right and rested, to go hard for 2.5 months.
Yeah. And and the thing is too, I mean, you look at it, they put up 4 more points per game than the Lakers do, and a little more like 2.5 points more than the Clippers do. That's not an insignificant thing to think about. If you look up and down the league in terms of who's scoring what.
Well, right, but then you have to look too at their defense.
Right.
So
right.
Their defense, I think their defense ranks fifth in the league, and
Yeah,
a year ago, they weren't. They were in the top half. 2 years ago, they were in the bottom.
sure. Right,
Again, you have to look at that point differential, what you score
right,
and what your opponents score. It's an
right.
average of 11.2 points per game difference.
Yeah, the
That's
top
huge,
team scoring in the league versus the fifth best defensive team in the league.
right?
There's so many different ways that they could win in a series. Yeah, I mean, I
I,
think ultimately you're gonna see the two titans come together. And I know people don't necessarily think that way with the Bucks, but this year they are. And
well,
you've got the tried and true, the Lakers. You've got a guy who's won some championships, and then you've got this young, hungry team who's just really, really good. I think
right.
that's, yeah, it's totally going to
And I
come
think
down to
it's
that.
funny because you read all these articles that these teams are preparing for Giannis's free agency. He
Right.
loves Milwaukee.
Yeah, he
He,
does.
he loves it there. They can give him a max deal.
Right.
It's going to be more money than any other team can offer. What people are saying is,
Right.
well, if he goes to like Golden State or Los Angeles, advertising money. He is not
Sure.
that I want to be the spotlight guy.
Right.
He's not a guy that wants to be in the forefront, in commercials and movies and things like that.
Yeah.
He that's not his
He
personality.
Well, and if he wanted that, he probably could have done that already anyway. I don't
Right.
know. I mean, I realize he's in Milwaukee. It's not a big market in comparison, but I don't see him running off or these guys hitting a sweepstakes and getting Giannis. I think the Bucks will, like you said, give him a max deal and he'll be there. So
Yeah.
maybe later in his career,
And
but
I
right now they're going to make it a priority to give him everything they can to keep him there.
yeah, and I think if they stumble and don't make it to that final series, he
Yeah.
may think, you know what, we can't win a championship here.
Right. Yes. Maybe
You know,
then. Yeah. Yep.
and then he may leave. But if they go win the
Sure.
title, he's gonna be like,
Right.
why would I leave? They can offer
Right.
me
Why would
more
I leave?
money, and we can win here
Right, because we just did. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
because we
it
just
makes
did.
perfect sense. Right, yeah.
So why would I leave?
Right,
You know,
yeah, exactly.
because I'll tell you right now, if somehow he wouldn't resign and he would sign with like the Lakers, now you got Giannis, LeBron, and
Yeah,
and Kuzma, and can't think of his name.
yeah. I mean, they'd have this amazing squad that
Holy
I don't
cow!
know, but
But
yeah,
I don't see that
but still,
happening.
no, I
Um,
don't think so.
I again, it's speculation, but again, I really think the Bucks are
Yeah, I
one of
mean,
those
they're to me
teams
they're the yeah,
that since they got the new ownership aren't really worried about spending money on players. When Herb Cole was the owner of the Bucks, all he cared about was the bottom line. When it was the
yeah,
dollar, he cared about the winning. If they won, great. If they didn't, he didn't really care. You
yeah,
know, um, so you got these new owners, and it was kind of the same way with the Brewers. That the Brewers
right,
stunk for how long before the current ownership took over? And this has
right.
probably been the best stretch the last, I don't know, 6, 7 years that the Bucks or that the Brewers have had in the
It has
team's
been.
history.
Yeah, yeah,
Because they're not always like making the playoff stuff, but they're competitive.
right.
And if your
Well,
sports team is
and yeah, stay
competitive,
competitive.
people come
Right,
to watch.
right. They'll come to
Uh,
the games. They'll watch you on TV. There's a lot there, and you don't have to win a title every year, but be competitive.
right.
Be out
Be
there and be
competitive.
competitive. Yeah, yeah.
So,
No, I
uh,
think this year in the
um,
NBA that's the thing. It's funny because Football, you could get a team that gets hot, gets a 6th seed, wins the Super Bowl. Basketball, at least right now in this modern time, that we have, you're not seeing the 8th seed get hot and run and make it to the
Right.
title game
Yeah.
and win. There are just some teams that are better, and those teams you can say with some certainty, with a little mixture in there in terms of who wins and who loses series and stuff like that. But um, those 3, 4, 5 teams are going to be the ones that have a shot at winning the title, and then everybody else doesn't.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. And again, when we look at this, because we're coming up on the time, we'll talk more in depth once we actually have a
yep,
format, things like that.
right,
But I really think, I think the Bucks had a good shot even before this delay went out because they were starting to
right,
rest Giannis and things like that.
yeah,
Now it has come back. He should be fresh. They should all be healthy. And again, I point back to when the season first started and they were fresh and healthy. I mean, holy cow, that first month they were just
yeah,
crushing people.
right.
So it's going to be interesting to see.
Even if they're
I
rusty in a game, it
but
won't take
but
long,
the
I
thing
don't
is that
think, to shake off the rust, even if there is that the case, even if that
they're
was,
going to have 2 weeks to
yeah,
train before they have
yeah,
to play into these games. So I'm
right.
not worried about the rust. These are professional basketball players.
Yeah,
Couple,
yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah,
they're finding places to shoot because they can be back at team facilities now. I'm telling you right now, the Bucks are
sure.
in there. They're shooting around. They're doing some light practice
Yeah,
work.
yeah,
Um, I love their coach.
right.
I mean this again. My I'd love to see it before I die and leave this world. I already got to see Green Bay win a Super Bowl twice.
More than once.
Would love to see the Bucks and the Brewers both win world championship before I die. Would love to see it
Yeah,
because they're their hometown.
yeah,
Not that I'm a huge fan of theirs because I love the Lakers.
right.
That's my team. Not a
Yep,
huge baseball fan, but
right.
um, would love to see the Brewers
Yeah,
do it
from a
because I
hometown
think
state standpoint
right.
kind of thing. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah,
And you look at it too. I think winning a championship in a professional sport means more to the small market
sure.
cities than it
Right,
does, New York. They're happy for
right.
like a week or two and then they forget about it. You know,
I agree.
you know,
Yeah.
if the Bucks win the title this year, they could go 30 years and not win a title again, and people still be talking about this year.
Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure. Right.
that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
When you talk to people right now about Milwaukee, they're correlating this year to when Jabbar was
Yeah, I mean,
with
yeah,
the Bucks
remember
back in
Kareem?
'77. Yeah,
Yeah,
hey, with
yeah,
that run that they made to win the title is so
right,
you, it means more, I think, to small market
right.
clubs. Not
Yeah,
saying
I
that
think so too. Yeah,
big market fans don't love it. I think it means more to the whole city. Because I'll tell you right now,
yeah,
you win a championship for Milwaukee. Oh my lord, that you'll see the atmosphere of that city just change at least for a
right,
while, and
right.
they could use it. Trust me.
Yeah, it's bad there right now.
I've
Yeah,
worked.
for sure. Yeah,
I've worked down there. And I'm sure I have friends down there, and it's bad down there right now.
right.
So they could really use some positivity. Sort of like,
Yeah,
when, LeBron was trying to bring a title to Cleveland. Look what it did for Cleveland. It kind of
yeah,
changed the persona of Cleveland.
right.
Uh,
Yeah, it changed the atmosphere of that whole place. It was amazing. Yeah,
so that's why I think it just means a little bit more to those small markets. When
right.
you know, you look at, Kansas City Royals with the World Series and, just,
Mm-hmm.
it just, it has a bigger impact. than if
Right. It
New York,
resonates more and it resonates longer, I think,
or
than a lot of
or
places. Yeah.
LA, or big,
Right.
those huge cities, where you have millions of people and maybe 100,000 fans. Okay,
Yeah.
great. You have 5 million people in your city, and only 100,000 people like your team. Not gonna have a huge
Right.
impact. So,
Yeah.
um, anything else, Lone Wolf? Because we're up
We're
on
up on
time.
time here, I think. Nope. Nope. I think that's
Um,
good. I think we've got some good NBA talk in there. We can look forward to a season for the NBA here. There's a lot of positive things for sports, so I think we're on the right path here.
all right, sounds good. Again, everybody, stay safe, be smart with everything going on in the world. We got COVID, we got riots, we got looting. Be smart, be
Right.
safe. Um, you know, be respectful to your neighbors, even if you disagree with them. With their opinions and outlooks on things. Again, me and Lone Wolf, yeah, we don't agree on everything.
No.
we have our disagreements on stuff, but we're still
Yes.
friends.
Yep.
You use the disagreements to learn and become more enlightened on topics, because when you have a conversation, you might be like, "Hey, I didn't think about it that way."
Right.
May change your opinion, but the minute you say, "Oh, I don't," you shut somebody down because of a different opinion, you're never going to be able to talk to them, um,
No, you won't. Yeah.
and possibly change their mind. Um, you know, everybody has right to their opinion. I don't think any opinion, you know, is not worth at least listening to. Some, obviously, if you are a white supremacist or anything like that, you got some issues,
Right.
because that's wrong.
It's wrong. Yeah.
Nobody's better than anybody. It doesn't matter what nationality or ethnicity you are. Everybody's just as valuable to the world as everybody else. Um, you know, so again, be mindful, listen, talk to people, be safe, and we look forward to more actual sports talk here in the next couple weeks. And I think once the fourth comes, we're going to be rock and rolling, because we're going to have NFL training camps. We're going to have
Right.
basketball starting back up.
Right.
Maybe
Man, there's a whole
baseball.
bunch. Well, I won't hold my breath on baseball
Don't hold your breath on baseball,
because
because
you may just die. Don't
I
don't
think
waste your time holding your breath on that. I don't think
the
so.
baseball season is technically on life support, in my opinion. Um,
Yes.
it I just don't know what they're thinking over there. But
Yeah.
anything else to
Yeah.
add, Lone Wolf, before we head
No, I
her
think
out
we're
for the
good.
night?
I think that's a good way to wrap it up.
All right, everybody. Again, thank you for listening. If you are listening to this after the fact, thanks for listening or downloading. Again, our episodes are up on YouTube, which are also linked to our website, which is in our description. Again, thank you, everybody. Have a good week, and we will talk to you next week.
All right.